Okay, sorry about that. I was having an issue getting the right screen to come up, so we should be live now. Oh, I know why there's an echo. Hey, turn the on your YouTube. Turn the audio off on your YouTube. Like mute your YouTube video.
I think we're good.
Okay, good deal. That's why it was echoing through. I just realized that. Anyway, I would like to welcome the Unapologetic Prepper on the show. And, man, I'll tell you what, I really enjoy what he's got going on over there. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, everybody. I just want to first off say I'm really glad to be here. This is, far too long. But for those of you that don't know me or aren't familiar with my content, I'm the Unapologetic Prepper. As far as preparedness goes, I've lived a preparedness lifestyle most of my life. And then probably about a decade ago, 2011, 2012, I took it to the next level. I went full-time RVing, spent most of my time off-grid and just, really trying to learn and really figure out what it is I wanted to do, what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. I was active duty in the military at that time. I was in the Navy. We don't have MOSs, we have rates and we have NECs. So I was a hospital corpsman and my NEC was 8406, 8401. So I was cross-certified as an aerospace medical technician, and then I did search and rescue. So in the Navy, I was part of HSC, which is Helicopter Sea Combat Squadrons. And so we did combat search and rescue for the Navy. So as far as my military pedigree, that's what I did. And I did that for 13, 14 years. So that's kind of that's how I, my growth as a young man, that's kind of, that's what I did. And then, obviously I full-time RV'd. Eventually, got into some property, got married. And so since then, I've just been trying to live this preparedness lifestyle to my best ability. And through that course of my life has caused me to look at things very uniquely, very specialized. And I try to bring that to you guys every single day. And so, just to be honest, my biases are to efficiency, sustainability, and preparedness. If it doesn't fit within that model, I tend to not like it because it tends to not be good solutions. Because when I look at preparedness, I look at it from there's a problem, what's going to be the solution? What's a viable solution? What are all the repercussions? What are the consequences of that action? And so that's, so that's kind of what my channel is about. But yeah, I'm just, at this point, I'm just a lowly homesteader trying to bring you guys good content and try to live my life to the best of my ability. So in a nutshell, that's me.
So what got you into prepping? What was it that just went off in your mind that said, you know what, we better start getting prepared? Right.
So I think realistically, my family's always been into preparedness. They've always had that preparedness-minded lifestyle. So said I was in the military. I'm a fourth generation sailor. So if you look all the way back to my great-grandfather, he was in World War I, he was in the Navy, and then my grandfather, my father, me. So I think from that military background, especially coming back from that kind of lineage, just in looking where we came from, there's always been precedence there. My grandfather was always huge into gardening. I mean, I've never met anybody. I mean, I feel like he has special powers, man, because he can literally touch a plant and it could be dead and it comes back to life. So he's always been huge into permaculture, always been huge into gardening. And so that was always something that I took from that. And then growing up, being a military brat, we kind of moved around all over the place. And, there are many different sequences in my life. For example, the May 3rd tornado that happened in Oklahoma, I was there. We lost our roof, almost lost our lives. So there have just been lots of circumstances where I can point to why preparedness is important and why it matters, right? Because again, realistically, right, I know a lot of people might be upset about this, when bad catastrophes happen, right, most people survive them, especially in modern day 2021, right? We can point to what happened in Texas. We can point to what happens in Florida every year. There are people that lose their lives. We have a handful of people that lose their lives, but ultimately the majority of the population survives. The biggest difference that we take from it is the traumas and the quality of life. right? What does that mean to you? What does that mean to us? For me, it's huge to be able to say, you know what, no matter the circumstances that I come across, there's going to be a unique solution that not only makes sense, but actually betters me as a person, betters my family as a person, right? I'd rather not look at my wife. I'd rather not look at, children and be like, hey, I can't help you. I can't feed you. I'd rather not be in that situation where ultimately we'll be rescued at some point, you hope. But I'd rather be able to have common sense solutions, because I think overall that's what enriches our life. Our life is enriched by our ability to be sustainable, be prepared, and to face the things that come head on, whether they're huge or whether they're something as minuscule as the power went out because a tree, hit a power line.
Right, exactly. And you said something that kind of stood out to me there, and you were talking about how when disasters happen, it's inevitable that you're going to have loss of life. And there's something that just it's driving me nuts here locally. As you know, there was a series of tornadoes that recently hit back in December. And we're talking about not the same storm system, but I believe it was the same night, if I'm not mistaken, that the massive Kentucky tornadoes went through. There was actually a tornado that touched down about 25 minutes away from where we are now, and it wiped out an Amazon warehouse, a distribution warehouse building. And it just blows my mind because, like you said, there's going to be loss. You can't get beyond that. And what blows my mind is there's actually a lawsuit right now against Amazon because basically the building didn't withstand an EF3 tornado direct hit. I mean, it kind of blows my mind. But there's a lot to it, and I think when it all comes out, I think it's gonna be found out that there were some employees that were being defiant and didn't go where they were told to go when they were told to go there. Unfortunately, they're no longer with us, and that's just kind of along the lines of preparation. That's why it's so important, because had they listened to the management and gone to the shelter area, the designated shelter area, they would still be alive. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because the same is true with prepping. If we don't have food, if we don't have supplies put back or anything like that, we can only blame ourselves. I mean, we really can't pin that on anybody else.
No, I completely agree with you. And let me just, and just for people that aren't familiar with me, I was joking with you earlier about we're gonna shut the internet down. I'm a straight shooter, and I keep it close to the chest, and I keep it real. And you're right. There's always going to be some kind of loss of life, or there's always going to be negative consequences, right? And the biggest issue you're going to find with people in preparedness is they don't want to do what's necessary, right? And the argument that you'll get is the same argument you get in any facet, right? When you're talking about somebody saying, hey, you should do this, you should do that. There's always going to be somebody that says, well, not everybody can do that, right? And the truth to that is, you're right. Not everyone can do that. And guess what? Not everyone's going to survive.
Right.
Not everyone's going to live. Right. Not everybody's going to be okay. So I agree. Not everybody can do that. But if your only argument is not everybody can do it, that's a really shitty reason. I'm sorry. Yeah. It's a really shitty reason to die. Right?
Exactly.
Because not everybody's going to survive it. So I get it. Yeah, it's a cruel world. Not everybody's going to survive it. So you have an opportunity right now. You should do everything you can to make sure that that's no longer an issue. And I there's no other way to say it. There's no other way to put it. It takes work. Prepping is not hard. It's simple, but it's not easy. Right? Like shooting a gun, right? Shooting a gun is easy. You line up the sights, the back sight, the front sight. You look at sight alignment. You know what's beyond the target. All that stuff. It's easy to say, and in practicality, it's not hard, but it's not easy to do. Right. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. Preparedness is the same way, and I just wish more people. I wish we could just get past that argument of not everybody can do it, and just say, okay, I get what camp you're in, but let's go back to efficiency. Let's go back to preparedness.
Well, and kind of to support what you were saying there, me and Jen, we're both disabled. She's got cerebral palsy. She walks with forearm crutches. I've got moderate COPD. So I literally can't run 2 blocks because I can't breathe. And, it would be so easy for me to throw out that excuse. So, well, it's, I can't do it, or it's useless because, we're disabled. We can't do this. We can't do that. But I don't know. I have something inside of me that says, you know what? I've got to give it every single thing I've got. And in the end, if my end comes because I just couldn't do it or she couldn't do it, we tried and we gave it everything we had. There was no excuses, and like you say, it's everybody can for the most part do it, and it's just a matter of doing what you can when you can. We don't have a ton of money, so whenever we've got a little bit to put back a little bit more food or get this or that, we do it. This is what we have, and it's not a ton, but it's from years. We've been together for 7 years. We've been putting stuff together for 7 years. It's not an overnight thing.
Right. I think that's great, and I just want to point out to everybody out there, I know right now, if you're looking at preparedness YouTube, or if you're looking at the preparedness culture, it's very toxic, and everybody's trying to make it seem like the end is near, okay? The truth of the matter is, there's always time to start prepping. There's always time to start, okay? And I think that's the biggest thing, is people get so overwhelmed because they go, and if I say something that's just correct me if I overstep a boundary, but you're going to look at these bigger preparedness channels, and they're going to say, hey, I've been on preparedness. They're going to say, hey, I've been doing this for 5-6 years. Look at my pantry. I have a year's worth of food. I have 2 years worth of food. You have to have this. You have to have that. And it's a toxic monetization culture, because the truth of the matter is people have been saying this for years, okay? When I first went on my own as an adult, people were saying, hey, because, I joined the military under Bush Jr. And, a lot of people were saying once Obama became president, hey, the end is near. The end of the world is here. They were calling him the Antichrist. I mean, the preparedness community was crazy back then. Kind of similar how it is now, but it was less monetization back then. It was just ideology. But, everybody always talks about the end being near. And guess what? People said back then, hey, if you don't have the land yet, it's over. There's always time. Start. Go slow. You don't have to spend money when you first start. Like I even have a video on that. There's so many things that you can do to maximize your preparedness and sustainability without even spending a dime, right? So if you're feeling overwhelmed, just don't listen to the naysayers, because I promise you there are equatable solutions without equivocation, and you're going to be okay. It's okay to take a step back and just relax and realize that I'm doing something now. And like what you said about, everybody can do something. Yeah, there's always going to be something that you can do to help maximize your preparedness. And don't, again, don't follow suit with these pseudo preparedness people that just want to be flashy and want to make money off you. So.
Well, yeah, I have to laugh. Well, I have to laugh because I see some of these channels. They get up there and they want to be flashy. They want to show off their armor. They want to show off their AR-15 and stuff like that. And what cracks me up every time is at least 90% of these channels, you can tell they don't have very much time with that equipment. You can tell because, like, say for instance, their bulletproof jacket, it won't be worn. I mean, it looks like it just came off the Amazon truck. I mean, and I have a love-hate for Bear Independent. I really do. He's somebody that if you want to get good advice as to what type of gear to have and stuff like that, he's the man. He is the man. He has put this stuff through the ringer, And then there's other channels that, like I say, it looks like they just got it that day off the Amazon truck, and it's like, how can you recommend this to somebody when you don't even have any time with it,
I agree. I take the Bear Independent route, right? I include a lot of clips of him on my channel because he is allowed, based upon his channel size, to say things that he can say the same things I say, but I get attacked for it. He doesn't, because it's just a subscriber thing, right? He's a little bit more fear porn than I am, and that's I guess that's to be addressed, as it comes. But a little bit too much fear porn for me. But you're right. You can tell that the reason why I don't talk tactics on my channel, and a lot of people I had a conversation with somebody yesterday about this. I don't talk tactics on my channel because, coming from my pedigree, my background, even what I do now to this day, it's one of those things where you can't teach hustle. Okay, there's a reason why I don't talk about tactics, because tactics start here. The equipment is irrelevant. Okay, the equipment is irrelevant. You take any person that we look at or we look up to today, whether that be a Chris Kyle, whether that be somebody that operates on the on the Delta level, whether that be tier 1, tier 2, or whether that's just a grunt that has a lot of combat experience, that has that mentality. You can't teach that. Okay, no. I can't teach that to somebody. As somebody who has trained and still does in CQB, taxi. You can't train that hustle. You just can't. You can't do it. They have it or they don't. You take somebody that has that drive. I don't care what you put in their hand or what you don't put in their hand. They have that I'm going to survive mentality. They have that outside of the box mentality. It's, for me, knowing this is pointless to try to put tactical videos up and try to teach people this stuff, because the people that really do believe in that stuff, what do? They're out there doing it, right?
Right.
I'm not going to sit here on YouTube and waste my time so that people can feel good about themselves, because I know when I go to the range, which I go all the time, I know they're there. When I'm teaching classes, I know those people are there. So I would rather surround myself with people that are already doing the things, And so I think you're right. A lot of people want to buy the gear in order to look cool, or in order to even feel. I think it gives them a sense of comfort. I really do. But people that are truly alphas, people that are really truly good at their trade per se, they don't have confidence in the gear. They have confidence themselves. Right. The gear helps. It's a force multiplier. But if you don't have the mentality, it's pointless. And I think we see it. I think we see it all the time. On YouTube, they do a good job of showing showing when the robber got stopped, right? Oh, the robber got stopped by a guy with a gun. What they don't show you is all the times where somebody did have a weapon, they pulled it, and they got killed with their own weapon, or they got hurt anyway because they had the gear, but they did not have the mentality to stay alive. And there's more people like that than there's people that actually truly know what they're doing, and they truly have that self-preservation mentality. And it's unfortunate, but there are always going to be more victims than there's going to be victors. Right. And I think our crime statistics 100%, give credence and credibility to that statement. That's why we have, that's why we have a police force. That's why we have military. That's why we have first responders. That's why we have firefighters. Because when it comes down to it, and I truly believe this, it all comes down to professionals. The reason why we have professionals is because they do things that people are either unwilling or unable to do themselves. And so there's a reason why you're never going to see, tactical stuff on my channel, because, again, if you are and you know who you are, I'll see you on the range, bud, So
Right. Oh, exactly. And I'm the same way. There's multiple reasons why I don't really go too far with tactical stuff on the channel. For one, I don't want anybody to know what I do or don't know. That's probably number one. And secondly, man, the bigger badass that you make yourself appear to be, the bigger target you actually make yourself to be. And so that's why I don't come off that way. I'll come off as the guy that can't do nothing, the guy, when it comes to that aspect of things. And that's not my forte anyway. I always tell people, and there is a level of truth to this, especially with the COPD, but if you're expecting me to be the guy to defend the castle, we're probably in trouble. And it's not because I can't. Well, physically I can't. I gotta keep telling myself that, because I'm one of those people that I don't know stop very well, and I will push myself beyond what I can do anymore. And so my forte is actually more in repair, and pretty much you put something in front of me, I can fix it. And I'm just one of those people, whether it's mechanical, electronic, whatever. I've always been somebody that was good at fixing stuff, repairing stuff. Some people call us tinkerers, I guess. But that's a lot of what I do. I keep things working, keep things together and stuff like that. And that's one thing that that is something I try to heavily promote because, along the lines of like what we were talking, you get all these people that's got all this fancy gear, all this fancy equipment, but if it breaks, they have no clue of what to do, and that, I think that is probably going to be the number one downfall of preppers and actually people that are getting prepared because they're not going to know how to fix their gear.
I think that's a great point. There's two things that you brought up there that I'd like to address real quick. The mentality again, I completely agree. So take my wife for example. She has her own tools. She has her own toolbox. She has her own firearms. She's skilled on them. We practice. That's what's great about living on the frontier here. I have a range right here, and so I 100% trust her ability to utilize them. She has a concealed carry permit. She carries on her body all the time. I love her to death, and I don't want her going out there when something goes boom in the night. I don't. That's my job, and I'll do it. But with that being said, that doesn't mean that she's defenseless. And again, for example, I have training experience in executive protection, and one thing the Secret Service really have made their gold standard is the box within the box theory, right? Security within security, right? So take your home, for example, right? Things that are outside, we have done a great job here on our homestead, and I encourage everyone. So if we're just going to talk, tactics right quick, let's just talk, good old common sense. If there's something you don't want stolen, don't leave it out, okay? Don't leave it in the front yard, right? So you have the security within security mindset. So if somebody wants to go out and they want to steal a bike that I have out there, well, you know what? That's not something I'm not willing to die over. I'm not willing to make a big deal about that. It sucks, but it is what it is. So anything I have outside, again, low priority. Things that are within my doors, higher priority. Things that are within locks, higher priority. Things within locks and doors, higher priority, right? So if that time were to ever come where, my wife is going to face a burglary or a no-joke home intruder, well, we have a few things set up, right? We have three Mastiffs, 150 pounds plus each, right? That's a pretty big deterrent, okay? She has firearms, right? Pretty big deterrent. So reality sets, the most important thing is my wife and my family, everything else. So if she can secure herself into a smaller room, have an AR-15 trained at the door, three large, 400 pounds worth of dog each, I think she's going to be pretty safe. Sure, if you want to take my TV or you want to take my couch, go for it. But ultimately, when you're talking about security, when you're talking about everything else, when you incorporate levels of security and when you're smart, you're going to be able to thwart most things. You really are, because things are about what is easy, what is seen as an easy target. And when you do these basic implementations, you're no longer an easy target. I mean, truth be told, in our town, we had a lady that just died from a dog attack, right? The dog was a 130-pound dog, and it literally ate her. There's a reason why when SWAT teams go to houses, even with no-knock warrants or with warrants, whenever there's an aggressive dog, everything stops and the whole policy changes. Because dogs are that big of a threat. They're that big of a threat to law enforcement. They're that big of a threat to military personnel. So, again, it's about making a layered approach, So you're right. You don't have to be tactical Billy Badass to be able to protect your family. You just got to be have a little bit of intelligence, Just use some common sense, be smart. And to your next thing, I think you're right. I think we're seeing huge leaps and bounds in right to repair. I think that when you're looking at that, I think that's going to be the next forefront. What you're doing currently, that's going to be the next forefront of constitutional rights, because we're starting to see so many companies that are very against right to repair. And the reason why is because we've made such a paradigm with technology that we made it seem like, technology today is what Christianity was and what Catholicism was back in the 1700s. Only somebody of the cloth had the ability or had the knowledge to be able to do this. Technology is the new religion. right? That is the new culture. We were talking about that earlier. That is truly the new culture. And so we're going to have to go through this paradigm like we did in religion, before everyone had the Bible, numerous copies of the Bible. You have these people that say, no, I can do that. I can handle that technology. I know how to do that. And you have these big corporate entities that are saying, no, you're not of the cloth. You're not our technicians. We don't want you playing with this, right? And why is that? Knowledge is truly power. If you allow people to take religion and you allow people to educate themselves, and you allow people to be better, they're going to go with what's best for them and their needs, not what's best for your needs. It's the same thing with technology, just like religion. When you allow people to educate themselves and interact with technology, they're going to make it better. They're not going to need to be dependent upon you anymore. And that's what we're seeing. There's no difference. I mean, honestly, you look at right to repair and you look at technology, you're looking through all the complaints and all the case law that's happening right now, and you compare that to, Catholicism in the 1600s. It's the same shit, man. It really is.
Oh, I agree. And you bring up right to repair, which is actually a battle right now, because they're doing everything they can, and they have been now for a couple of decades, actually, to close us in so that we can't repair different things. Like, I think they really thought that they were going to throw us completely off course when they say come out with all the electronics in vehicles, all the different computer systems, all the different sensors and servos, and fortunately for me, electricity and electronics was one of my first loves. So when they started introducing that on a large scale and into automotive, that was no sweat for me. But I'll tell you what, there was a whole lot of mechanics that got out of the field because they didn't understand anything about it anymore, and it's slowly starting to come back because we're fighting it. And there's laws, actually, right to repair laws, that are allowing us to still be able to continue to repair things like mobile devices and whatnot. There was a period of time to where you couldn't really repair mobile devices too easily because you couldn't get the parts. And, I want to say, believe it or not, I want to say it was Obama that had actually put some laws in that actually helped us when it come to that, I'm pretty sure it was Obama that did that. So he did a couple of good things. I mean, he did a couple. That was one of them. And he allowed us to unlock phones. I don't know if you're unaware of that, but he was the one behind getting us to where we could, forcing them to allow us to unlock the phones. So all that stuff was a big deal.
No, and here's the thing, too, and I don't want to get off on this tangent because I respect the shit out of you, but I know that our preparedness space is extremely conservative for the most part, and trust me, I get it. There's a lot of things there that I respect, but conservatives have really screwed the pooch the last 2 decades. There's no doubt.
Agree.
And I don't even want to get into that because it's just, we talked about that a little bit earlier. You start asking honest questions to conservatives about things, especially, social media, right to repair, all this stuff. And it's amazing what people realize the actual Republican Party platform is. So you trust me, I get it. There's presidents that do good things. There's presidents that do bad things. And overall, the problem with most people is when they hear somebody say something they don't like, even if it's good advice or even if it's true, they just can't accept it. And so I think that's one of the, I think if I have a strongest trait, that's what it is. That's what I believe it is just taking things for what it is. So I agree with you. I mean, I think you have you have one of the most unique skill sets coming into preparedness currently, because unfortunately all these preppers want to talk about bushcraft and they want to make it seem as if they're ready to go into the woods, but truth be told, I mean, they're not, Right. I watched, not going to mention his name. I actually had a conversation with him very, very recently. And he did a bug out drill where he tried to go from his house, from his work to his house. It was 27 miles. He made it 12 miles and had to quit. And this is somebody that, prides themselves on being, hardcore bushcraft, backpacker, country boy, And so it's one of those things where it's like people don't realize how hard this stuff is until they actually have to do it in real life, you know? And so I agree. The space that you're in is the most important because people want these luxury items. You know, people want this, myself included. I live in the frontier. You know, I have a wood stove. I have a lot of bushcrafty elements, you know, and I live a very rugged lifestyle compared to most people. But at the end of the day, look where I'm at, you know. I have a freaking whatever this. I have elliptical in the background of this bike. You know, I have electricity. I have internet. It sucks, but I have it. You know, so having somebody like you that is able to interact with this technology, it's worth its weight in gold. You want food, bud? I'll give you food. You need heat? I'll give you heat. You need protection? I'll give you protection. That's super important.
Right.
You know, if you can keep just my basic, if you can keep my solar going and you can, you know, if I can find it, it's the thing, like what's one thing there's going to be a lot of, if there's a true Mad Max apocalypse situation, there's going to be a lot of non-running cars. So if I can ground up a bunch of batteries, which I bet your ass I can, and you can make use of that, dude, you're number one, man.
Right.
I can teach any monkey to hold a rifle. I can teach anybody how to slice the pie and go through a room. I can teach people that. Right. What I can't teach people, because I don't have that skill set, is making my solar array more effective. Am I running it in series? Am I running it in parallel? You know, well, that depends on that depends on Unapologetic Prepper. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to run? I don't know. That's a great idea. That's why I'm glad I have you. You know, so
right.
Those are all things that are super important, and that skill set is going to be super viable. It's going to be one of the most viable skill sets going forward. And I know a lot of people don't want to admit to that or agree to it, but you're absolutely right. I mean, at the end of the day, I live a more rugged lifestyle than most people. But if I had a guy like you that was nearby, man, you're number one, number two.
Right.
You really.
Right, and I've been, you know, trying to give people a hint. Apparently you live in like a pretty rural area. I live in not so rural. It's not a big city. We're about 9,000 people in this town. And
that's pretty small.
Yeah, and we're like 30 miles from St. Louis, so it's not, you know, I'm not worried about St. Louis. I'm not worried about people from St. Louis coming this way. I mean, I'm sure at some point that will happen. If, you know, the balloon goes up at some point, yeah, we will have people that come this way from over there. But they're going to have to go through a hell of a lot to get here, you know, and most of them ain't going to make it this far. So
no, I agree with you. And if we look at, for example, if we look at Cuba, if we look at South America, if we look at Venezuela, you know, if we look at where the balloon has actually went up, you know, we don't see a mass exodus to the countryside.
No.
You know why? Because people simply don't have those fucking skill sets.
Right.
And I hate to put an F word on it, but it's true. I don't think people realize the culture shock and actual differential of experience that's required to think you're going to go out there and live on your own. It's not a reasonable expectation.
Right.
It's not.
That's why I do what I can, you know, to try to convince people around here, because prepping is just something that is just off a lot of people's radar, you know, especially the more urban areas that you're in. It's just people don't think about it. And so, like, one of the things that I've been trying to convince people in my area to do is just to start putting some food back, you know. And just basically have, you know, a lot of people, they have a week's worth of food in their house, and that's it, you know. And I literally, I'm looking for it here. Yeah, I put up a post the other day. I said, just did an online order for grocery pickup, and holy cow, lots of things are out of stock. I really hope folks are paying attention, and most importantly, putting food and supplies back. And I said, no, that wasn't the post. Basically, what I said is, you know, there's a lot that I can do to help, but feeding you isn't one of them, you know. And so kind of trying to let everybody know, hey, get some food put back. And, you know, when this happens, just remember what I said. And, you know, when you need something repaired, when you need to figure out how to make this work, or maybe you just need a charge on your mobile device because you need to take a break and you need to listen to that song that you love so much, whatever it is, you know, because that in return is going to benefit me, You know, the good thing about where we live is we've got everything here. We've got, we've got farms, we've got, our own lake to be able to get water. There's pretty much, we even have our own power plant in town. Even though it's a little town of 9,000 people, we have our own power plant. So that's a big deal, in my opinion. That's, again, depending on what happens, I mean, we could have an EMP, and if that were the case, that power plant's pretty much, I won't say it's useless, but it will be useless as it stands. However, with enough of the right people, maybe we can get that thing trickling some power out, So it just kind of is what it is. But I like you say, I think that's going to be an important thing going into the future is going to be knowing how to do those things. And but we're going to need the other skills too. We're going to need the people that are more tactically geared, stuff like that, because you're going to have to cover all those bases.
No, I think that's a good point. And let me just say, because I'm not even going to pretend like I know your audience, because I don't. I know my audience pretty well, but I'm not going to pretend like I know your audience. But let me tell you this: everything you said, I couldn't agree with you more. So let's just take me for example. Military trained, combat search and rescue. I worked on the CSAR team, so I worked as a flight medic. So tons of medical tactical experience. I've done executive protection for a few. Let's just say for a few names that if I were to mention, you guys would know. So, I have a homestead. I grow a lot of food. I would say I'm set up pretty well, and it's through the grace of God. It's through having an amazing wife that has lots of experience herself. We pretty much create we're a power couple that allows us to do what we do, right? We grow, all the meat we'd ever need, we grow here on homestead. Power generation, we do a lot of that. But even with all that being said, I'm telling you, without a shadow of a doubt, if I had to choose between, somebody who's on our current, so take our county, for example, we have our county has a ERT team, emergency response team. I promise you, I would take a guy like you over somebody on that emergency response team. You know why? Because your skill set that you offer is invaluable to my life. I'm not going to get into a firefight every fucking day, right? Even in country, we don't get into firefights every day, right? Police officers, when they go to work every single day, yes, there's attacks on police officers. Police officers are getting tracked down and killed. That doesn't happen every day. You know what I do use every day? I use a fucking cell phone. Right. I use my computer. I use everything else. Your skill set is invaluable. Let me tell you something else me and my wife are talking about. Kova, our female, she needs a new bed, okay? And we're looking for beds that fit 160-pound mastiffs. They're pretty expensive. Prices on everything have gone up. But you know what? If you're somebody that knows how to sew, if you're somebody that I give you all the supplies and you can make a bed for me, what do you want? You want food? You want power? You want protection? I'll come by with 15 pounds of lamb chop, high quality backstrap. It's going to be in your freezer.
Yep.
I will do that because I'm a producer.
And you bring up a good point. I always tell people, make sure you get whatever tools for your particular trade that you need. You mentioned the bed and you mentioned sewing, right? I really don't know that whole bunch about sewing. However, we've got a black lab, and real quick it got old buying new harnesses for her because she thinks she's an ox, and she keeps ripping the little tab that holds her harness. And anyway, instead of going out and spending $30-40 every 2 months, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna get a sewing machine. Not only because I won't have to buy a harness every 2 months, but when the balloon does go up, I've got a sewing machine. I can mend clothes, I can do this, I can do that. So I'm always looking for more tools, even if it's something that I'm not well versed in. At least I have the tools, at least I have the equipment to do it,
I completely agree with you. And that's the thing. People feel like just because they're not they don't have tactical gear, or they don't, they're in, for example, they have disabilities that would preclude them from running around the field with cows and sheep. Brother, sister, I get it. And you don't have to do that. That's what's great about building robust communities. You don't have to. Not everybody has to grow their own food. I promise you. That's how society was built. You don't have to. Certain people have certain traits. The problem is, when we look at society in 2021, less than 1% of the population is responsible for feeding the other 99%.
Right.
If we're looking at it, that's the issue. Less than 1% of the population of the United States defends this country, whether it's military or law enforcement or fire. Right? Yep. Less than 1% does that. So we have created a culture based upon dependency because it's convenient. But I promise you, if you are somebody that is disabled, you can't go out there and chase cows. I get it. You can't go out there and hold a rifle and do, patrol checks. I get it. But if you could build a dog bed, or if you could sew a dog bed for me, or you can sew clothes or keep gear together, right? In the military, we call those parachute riggers. If you have that basic skill set, I promise you I'll take care of you, because I always have a sewing need. I have 3 or 4 sewing needs now. And I have a lady that does sewing, but she's so overtaxed because everybody's coming to her for sewing stuff too. If I had a sewing person right now who is like, I'm totally free and I'm willing to sew, I have 20 pounds of high quality, organic, all the hashtag meat that I'm willing to drop off at your house. I don't know how far 20 pounds of meat will get you, but for the average person or small family, that'll get you pretty far.
Right.
110% willing to do it. I won't even blink, brother. I won't even blink.
Right.
You get me a dog bed and you take care of some of this basic stuff I have 20 pounds of high quality meat. Beef, lamb, combination of both. You let me know. It's gonna be in your freezer. And you get back to me when you get back to me. If you can have it done in a week or 2, it'd be much appreciated. I'm not even joking. I'm being so serious right now, because people want to put this overemphasis on, things that they think preparedness is about, and it's not true. It's the same thing with your skill set, right? Dude, if something happens, or if you have a way to make my solar more efficient, what do you want, man? I thank you for explaining it to me. I'm 100% in. What can we do? What do you want? What do you need?
Exactly. And that's what I really promote. I promote as much as possible to people, because like you mentioned earlier, and you couldn't be more on target, every day, after the balloon goes up, whatever you want to call it, SHTF, every day is not going to be fighting battles. And it almost seems like so many people in the prepper community want to make it seem like every day is going to be that struggle where you're, and I'm the same way when I recommend gear to people, because, you get a lot of these prepper channels that want to just promote the high dollar stuff that many people can't afford. And, I look for the items that people can afford, that's within their reach, but is good enough quality that it's going to get the most people buy. That's like a poncho and poncho liner. It's not military surplus. The poncho doesn't have the rubberized coating that the actual military ponchos have. The brand is USGI. I don't know if you've ever checked it out, but the poncho is ripstop nylon and all that stuff, and it's not bad. And like I tried to explain people when I did a review video on it, you're not gonna be fighting, you're not gonna be going through the brush, you're not gonna be, people that are planning that every day an SHTF is gonna be that aren't gonna survive very long. That's just a fact.
You bring up a great point. Let's take Texas, for example. So cold is something, and I wasn't going to get into this, but I'm going to be very straight. Let's talk about the gear that you were mentioning, right? Being cold. There have been 2 times in my life I thought I was going to die because I was too cold. The first one, I wasn't really going to die. I was just young and I was super cold, so cold. So the first time I thought I was going to die from the cold was when I was in SEER school. So with my certain job, what I did in the military required me to go to SEER school, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, Escape. So I'm a graduate of SEER school for the military. I thought I was going to die the first night. I was literally that cold. It took me until 11 o'clock a.m. the next morning, while rucking and hiking, to finally feel my feet again. They were putting us through stress, a body inoculation of stress. They want you to basically give you the best experience of what it would be like if you were shot down or stuck behind enemy lines, right? And if you're not familiar with SEER School, you can Google it. There's tons of information, especially at this point on that school. The next encounter that I had was back in 2012. It was January 2012, and I was full-time RVing. I was off-grid, and I did something really stupid. I didn't top off my propane tanks, and my propane tanks in my RV depleted. I thought I was going to die. It was literally negative, below zero. I mean, it was in the negatives. I thought I was going to die. I did not have the gear that I needed. And essentially what I did was I was able, because I literally woke up, my body was, I felt like needles were all over I felt like I was getting stabbed. I was able to literally crawl into my truck, turn my truck on, because my truck had fuel. I had fuel in my truck. I cranked up the AC, and I literally passed out. I woke up, and it was, maybe 2.5 hours later, and it was finally, the heat was on full blast, right? I woke up and I was like, I'm never doing this again. Those are the only 2 times I ever thought I was going to die from being too cold. And I told myself, I'm never going to allow that to happen. And what you mentioned is great. This is somebody, at this point, I had 2 deployments under my belt when I was full-time RVing, right? So I had 2 deployments under my belt, already graduated SEER School. Like, I'm supposed to be the guy that's not going to have those issues. Was I crawling through the fucking brush? No. Was I on some mountainside somewhere? No. Was I engaged in some combat or some kind of infliction event where I was firing back at some enemy? No. I was literally battling the elements inside my RV because my propane ran out and I was so fucking cold. I woke up to stabbing pain and I literally crawled into my truck, turned the heat on, and I passed out.
Right.
That's what happened. So if I had the ability, what would be my solution, right? Preparedness is about solutions. What would my solution be? You mentioned a poncho? Yeah. Get gear. Does it have to be the most tactical, expensive gear? No. I didn't need something to crawl through the winter with. I just need something I could put on my body while I was in an RV and survive, right? And so that's what we have. Me and my wife, we both, we have our normal stuff, right? Everybody has their blankets. Everybody has, their normal linens and stuff. But if some shit goes down where the power's out, I have 2 Arctic Slumberjacks. We invest a bit of money in. They're not tactical, but you know what? We're going to be in our home, or we're going to be wherever. Yeah, we jump in those things. Our heat problems are solved.
Yep.
Right. It's the same thing. There's a problem. There's a solution, because most people in Texas is a great example. When you need to heat yourself up, it's not because you artificially put yourself in a bad situation. It's because Mother Nature's throwing you a curveball, and wouldn't it be nice to have a solution to that curveball? Right. I guarantee you those people aren't going to be trying to hike or do anything military combat related. They just have a need and they need a solution. And I think what you mentioned is perfect. It doesn't have to be military surplus, but hey, if you can jump in it and it's going to keep you alive overnight because of something bad's happening, I'd say even you have a pretty good piece of equipment. You should probably think about investing in keeping it.
Yep, and I've actually been covering that lately because with everything going on, we have no idea what's going to happen. It could be anything from, we could have a major power outage from a cyber attack. We could just be a matter of, right here in town. I just did a story the other night where a local news station interviewed a guy here in town, and his natural gas prices have doubled. And now we have electric heat, so we haven't been that affected by changes. But nonetheless, it could come down to that. It could come down to just the bills becoming so high, so we have to turn the thermostat way down or even turn the heat off, So to me, it's important for people to come up with these things. And we got I don't know if you've ever seen them, we've got a diesel heater. They call them diesel parking heaters. Yep. And so we got one. We don't have very much fuel for it yet, and I still have to come up with a piece to put in the window that I can run the exhaust out of. But at least we've got the heater. But what I've been doing, videos on the heater, but I make sure that people know that, don't make that your first line of defense. Make sure your first line of defense when it comes to staying warm is having layers, having stuff for layers. You don't have to go out and buy the super expensive sleeping bags. But I gave an example of a $45 sleeping bag that they claim goes to 0 degrees. I don't think I would quite take it that far, but I would say 35 degrees it would be good for. But you mix that up with that cheap poncho liner and a $35 wool blanket, and you're going to survive, and to me, that's the most important thing that I can relay to people, is that, you don't have to go out and get all the fancy stuff. Start out with the things that take the least amount, you know what I mean? In other words, layers, if you're layered up to stay warm, to stay alive, that's not costing you any fuel, that's not costing you any electric. And I think if we approach prepping in the same way, same with food, for instance. If you can go out and buy all these food buckets and all this freeze-dried food, that's great, but that stuff is super expensive. You can go buy a 20-pound bag of rice for what? I think $8, something like that, or that's what it used to be anyway. No, you can't live on that alone. But if you keep putting back little things, like you can buy canned chicken, canned beef. We've been getting some of that, some of the canned chicken and stuff. Because unfortunately we don't live on a homestead, so what food, we have to store what food that we have. But that's not to say, as I tell people, you're probably not going to be able to prep your way out of a major long-term disaster. You're going to have to become self-sustainable. But the most important thing is that you have enough supplies to get past that hump. And that's what's important, just to make sure you can get past that hump until you can start implementing other things. Like we rent. We're in a small house, but we rent. And, we can't have a garden. I'd love to have a garden. But if something happened, I guarantee you, the landlord, we've got like the most awesome landlord ever. I guarantee you, if something were to happen, if some major SHTF would happen, he wouldn't care. He wouldn't care. So we have seeds, and I don't have all the equipment I need. I need to get a hoe, stuff like that. I threw that in there kind of as a joke, but I do need to get more gardening equipment and stuff like that because I just don't have it. But again, having that first line, so to speak, the most basic stuff, I think, is what's incredibly important in prepping.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on, and I get it as somebody. And if you guys watch my channel, I'm very anti stockpiling and hoarding. And the only reason why I'm not big into stockpiling and hoarding, and I don't advocate for it, is just because you're right. It's not a long-term solution. It's a very weak Band-Aid. But with that being said, there has to be a transition process, and like I said with you, the biggest thing that I tell people is building strong communities, man, because I guarantee you, if you live near me, man, I want you, everything that you don't eat, I want you to put in a big bucket. I want you to bring it to my house, bring it to my homestead, and I will exchange that bucket of byproducts and food that you cannot eat with high quality fresh eggs, because I'm going to take that bucket, I'm going to immediately give it to my chickens, and I'm going to give you fresh eggs, right? I do that. That's what I do now, So it's one of those things where there are solutions, and it just really comes down to us being willing and being open to look at them. And I get it. Everybody's in a different situation, and that's what we should. What we should be doing right now is preparing ourselves for that transition, because the transition is going to happen. Right. What's happening is unsustainable. Now, I'm not telling you that there's going to be some crazy event that's going to cause that to happen, because I don't believe that. But the transition is going to happen. The transition happens every couple hundred years. We see a transition, like we saw with religion back in the 1600s, like we're seeing with technology now, like we've seen in the past with peak oil and the creation of oil. Right? We are going to go through these transitions in life. And I think it's important that we realize that, and we just stay ahead of that power curve, because it's happening. It's happening now. Now, again, I don't fall into the fear porn. I never will. But we do. We all see that transition is happening. It's happening slowly, but it's happening. And wouldn't it be nice to be able to know, you know what? I have built resilient I've built resilient relationships in a resilient community, and all this stuff is going off without a hitch, right? Wouldn't it be great to be able to feed ourselves with our hobbies? And that's what I've done, and that's what I encourage people to do. Everybody has a hobby. Find the way to make that hobby valuable to you. If that hobby can feed you, great. It's not going to pay your mortgage, right? But if you have a hobby that can feed you, or it can put a dent in your grocery bill, why not at least experiment with it, right? Why not at least put it out there? And I'm encouraging everybody right now. Think about what options you have, and really think about making that transition, or see what a transition would look like to you.
Well, you mentioned earlier before the show, you were talking about the supply chain issues and how you have a different viewpoint on the supply chain issues, and I'm gonna let you get into that, but I do want to add to it that another societal change, which is what you were saying you view this as a societal change. Another societal change is we're going to see the end of the throwaway society, that the society to where people just buy stuff, it breaks, they just throw it away and go buy a new one. I think we're going to see the end of that as well. Now go ahead, what you were telling me about the supply chains.
All right, so I gotta take a quick break. I just want to get my head right, because I want to articulate this firmly, because I know that people are going to misconstrue. So just give me a quick break. Let me just get some air real quick, and I'm going to just break down very, very quickly the culture. I see this as a culture shift. So I'm going to take a quick break, but I'll be right back if that's okay. Can I get like 45 seconds?
Yeah, that's not a problem at all.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. So this just came up kind of short notice to have him on today, and this is something I would like to get back into doing. I would like to start having more guests and getting back into this. I am not a social person, so for me to reach out to find guests to bring on the show, that's not real likely to happen. But it is something that I do want to get back to doing. I do want to start having more guests. I do want to start getting specialized in certain areas, because, we're all limited in what we know, what our abilities are, and stuff like that. And I certainly don't know everything. There's a lot of fields that I don't know. As an example, I'm sure he knows medical 1,000 times better than I do. I really don't know that much about it. I can put a Band-Aid on. I know how to put on a tourniquet. I know how to do things like that. But my medical skills are completely limited. And, as I was telling him and you all earlier, having those tools is important nonetheless, just because I don't know medical. We've got I think it's an M17 medical kit in there. It's not the biggest, it's not the best or anything like that, but it does give me some tools to work with. So even if I don't know how to do it myself, then, maybe a neighbor works in nursing, or, maybe another neighbor might be a doctor, and they may not have the tools on hand. But, it's important to have those tools. And I want to start bringing on more people that are more specialized for those things. So, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm doing a video on this, so grab some quick notes.
Oh, okay.
So I think when we're talking about, let me shut this door real quick. So I think it's, when we're talking about what's going on currently, okay, I think it's really important that we understand culture, okay? And so, for example, the first grocery store that was ever opened was opened in South Tennessee, and it was called Piggly Wiggly in 1916, okay? So in 1916 was the first time mankind in the United States of America ever had any resemblance of a grocery store. And it wasn't even really a grocery store. It was a place where people could go and get certain meat products, right? Like what we would commonly think of as, you would go to get eggs or some kind of like products, like a butcher shop or something. That was the first one that was commercialized. 1916, Piggly Wiggly's, look it up. it's an amazing transition, because grocery stores did not become really a common thing in big cities until the 40s, right? The 30s and 40s. And so mankind has always been one of an agricultural-minded world, agricultural-minded society. And as we push to 2021, I find it very unique that we're looking and we're saying food shortage. We're saying all these things because we go to Walmart. Like Southern Prepper One has put a lot of videos out about it. I've watched the guy, met the guy. I was stationed in North Carolina. He lives in South Carolina, and he did a lot of there was a lot of prepper meetups, and he's done those historically, a lot of prepper shows. So I've been able to at least meet him. Great guy, very charismatic. But as of recently, I'm seeing all these big channels talking about food shortage this, food shortage that. Everybody's recording inside, Walmarts and stuff, and it shows you where we're at as far as culture goes. Because let me say this to your audience, and I'm looking at the comment section. I'm imploring people to correct me, but if I were to tell you the schools are closed, therefore we have a shortage of education, would anybody buy that? If I told you that the churches were closed, therefore we have a shortage of Christianity, would any of your viewers buy that, right? Would anybody buy the fact that we can only get Christianity through the churches, or we can only get education through schools? Would anybody buy that? Would anybody take me seriously if I said that?
I wouldn't, but I'm an odd duck, though.
Right? You can find Christianity, right? You can find God. There's literature everywhere. It's the same thing with food. There's no food shortage. The problem that we're having is there's an inconvenience shortage, right? Because there's tons of food. It's just we have trained ourselves. Our culture has told us if it's not packaged in plastic inside a refrigeration at your local grocery store, it doesn't exist. That's the truth. And we've been trained that way. It's kind of like social media. Like I was telling you before the show, right? Here's my cell phone, right? My cell phone's right here. 20, 30 years ago, if I told you, how did a guy look at porn 30 years ago, right? Dirty magazines, maybe a dirty video. That's how they did it, right? How did you get entertainment? You had to go somewhere. If you wanted theater, you had to drive to the theater. If you wanted to go to a restaurant and get food, you go to a restaurant. Within 20, 30 years, that's all changed. This cell phone allows me to watch porn whenever I want. It allows me to watch YouTube whenever I want. Allows me to watch music whenever I want, listen to music, order food. This is the new culture, right? If you were to ask anybody in their 20s or even 30s, hey, show me how to use a map. They don't know how to use a map. How did people drive and go from point A to point B? I mean, we had commercial highways back in the 90s, right? How did people know how to get to point A to point B without GPS? All this is cultural. So we're seeing a cultural shift, and the shift is showing how unprepared and how dependent we are on the system. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm looking at this from all factuality. If you really are going to depend on these systems to give you everything you need, well, then you have to at least accept the responsibility and the consequences of that. And right now, they're pretty dire. They are. And I'm sorry, and I know that's going to hurt a lot of people, but unfortunately, we have to look at this from culture, right? There's culture where I'm at. I'm not immune to culture. In this video, you're going to see there's a bobcat that has completely, took quite a few of my flock this week. That bobcat is the same culture in a different way that we're seeing, right? The bobcat can't take me on one-on-one. He can't. But what he can do is he can wait till I get complacent. He can wait till I get lazy. He can wait until I mess up, and then he attacks. Culture has done the same thing. These corporations have done the same thing. They've allowed you to be relaxed. They've allowed you to be dependent upon them. And then what do? They raise prices. They do what capitalism does. And I think capitalism is great. I'm definitely not a fan of socialism. But you can't have socialism without government tyranny, and you can't have capitalism without government intervention. We truly do not have a real capitalistic society.
No.
There are rules, there are restrictions in place, because if you allow a truly capitalistic society, you are going to have companies that kill off everybody else and make it to where they're the only dictatorship. Capitalism always leads to socialism.
Right.
Always.
Right.
It'll always
I agree.
get there.
I agree.
It'll always get there. And so it's important that we look at that and say, okay, so this is the reality. What are we going to do about it? Right? And I think that's why it's so important to build these robust communities. Because I'm not saying never shop at the grocery store, right? I'm not saying that. But wouldn't it be nice, right? Wouldn't it be nice if you could make somebody a dog bed and you wouldn't have to buy meat at the grocery store for a month or two, right? Just take that into perspective. Wouldn't that be nice?
That'd be awesome.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah, wouldn't that be nice if you could be like, you know what? Hey, Mr. Watchman, I want to make a website because I want to sell some animals. I'm wanting to put some animals up there. If I pay you, can we get that done? Or can I drop off, 20, 30 pounds of venison at your house? Is that okay? Can we come to some agreement, right? Those are the types of situations and communities that we should be building.
Well,
I'm not saying it's going to be a full fix, but wouldn't it be nice if you knew you didn't have to go to the grocery store for a few months because you did somebody a favor that was really meaningful to them? That is what I'm imploring people to look at.
And
because
that's what
opportunities are out there.
I've been starting. Right here, I've got 2 knives that were that I traded. I built a website for a guy, and he made me a couple of knives, and that's actually what I'm trying to work towards doing, is building those type of relationships, because like for instance, I couldn't afford to pay cash to buy these knives. I don't, if I had the money that he charges for these knives, it would probably go somewhere else. You know what I mean? So it really works out well for me to be able to trade that.
It's funny you mentioned that. So I'm sure for those of you that aren't familiar with me and my channel, we just had 9 Mastiff puppies. Mom's 160 pounds, dad's 230 pounds. They're huge dogs. And something that I've been looking at wanting to do is, kind of off-grid vehicles. I want something that is going to, that's going to run even if something happens, right? Or I want something that's a little bit more fuel economic. I'm really getting back into some of my robust, we have a river that runs, one of the biggest rivers in our state, kind of runs right past our property line. So I would like to have some kind of vehicle where I can kind of go anywhere within a 60-mile radius, on-road or off-road, and be able to do that and do it pretty, discreetly. And lo and behold, I met a guy, doesn't have a whole lot of cash, but he has the motorcycle that I've been looking for, and the year is perfect, where I don't really have to worry about, just a perspective. It's the same motorcycle from Rambo First Blood. great condition, Yamaha, great condition, and I traded him a puppy for it, And so and people like me, producers like me, we are 100% open to the trade, right? We're 100% open to looking at what's there, because realistically speaking, that, like you said, it's worth its weight in gold. Could I afford? Would I buy this? If I try to buy this vehicle, I mean, you're talking. I'm looking at the worth of it and the condition it's in. $3,500. I don't have that, but he really has. He has property. He has young children. He has some poultry, and he needs something that's big. Their thefts are going up in the area. He wants a big dog. Well, I traded him, potentially, dog's going to be a 200-pound dog, but he's getting a 200-pound dog, and I'm getting the vehicle that I'm looking for. So these things exist, you just have to be willing to ask. Because I promise you, producers like me, and I talk about silver and gold all the time, everybody says you can't eat gold. You're right, and you can't eat dollar bills either, but you know what? Somehow they're still worthwhile to a lot of people, most people. People like me that produce, I promise you, right now, I'll take your dollar bills, and I'll take your silver. Tomorrow, though, I may not take your dollar bills, but I'll still take your silver. But you know what? I also need dog beds. But you know what? I also need certain things sewed and mended. There's a lot of things that I need that I don't have the skill set for, because I'm not the smartest guy in the world, right? I can barely read and write, but I show up. And so I think that's the most important thing. If you show up, man, there's so much value in that. Right. There's so much you can get. I'm not saying it's a fix-all, but again, wouldn't it be nice if you just spent, 6-7 hours of your day, right? If you spent 6 or 7 hours of your day, you made a dog bed for somebody, and now you don't have to buy steak for 2 months. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And that's kind of how I'm trying to gear myself towards now. Because, like you say, I think there's a societal change going on now. I think it will continue to go. And as long as nothing major happens, there's going to be this slow transition. And I think there's a good chance we're going to see a lot of the older style stuff come back. Like you mentioned, you were talking about the Piggly Wiggly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we used to have a meat market here in town. In fact, I think there was more than one. But because of the big box stores and all that stuff, we do have a Walmart here in town. We do have a Ruler's Foods, which is owned by Kroger. And because of those, that meat market became obsolete and eventually went out of business. We do still have another meat market here in town. But to be honest, the only thing that really keeps that going, in my opinion, is probably hunting. Because they do process deer and stuff like that. So I think that's a large reason why it's still in business. And but I think we're going to start getting back towards that. I think we're going to make a move back towards that because I don't think that these big, say Walmart, say Amazon, stuff like that, I really don't think that that's going to be sustainable. I really don't.
It's not. And we're seeing it's not sustainable now. People want to conflate that to there's a food crisis. There's not. Like I said, like I was telling you before the show, and it's just that people haven't hit that part of the algorithm yet. But there are tons of local food suppliers that are opening up around the country. I guarantee you, anywhere that you're at in the country, there is some small town local food producer that is popping up, right? These homes, these small farms, everybody's trying to get into hobby farming right now. It's huge. I mean, we saw it with the butcher box, right? Subscription-based meat, and now that's even starting to go away. There are all these new co-ops that are opening up all over the place. And I'm telling you, living in 2022, it has not been easier to find food. The technology for food, it's all amazing, right? There are so many solutions, but the problem is we're in this archaic thinking that food only comes from grocery stores. And again, that's fine. And for most people, that's how it is currently. And I get that. But I promise you, if you can just open your mind a little bit to some opportunities, and if you're willing to put yourself out there just a little bit, I promise you the amount of headway you will make is amazing. Like I tell you, people literally come by my house, my homestead. These are friends and family, and they will have a 5-gallon bucket full of just, salad clippings or stuff from food, whatever. Like they just fill it up, especially after the holidays. They'll bring that over to my house. I give it to my I have a huge flock, 20 plus chickens, 20 plus ducks. I throw it out there to them, man, and then I'm like, here you go. Here's 2 dozen eggs, or here's a dozen eggs, depending on what they bring. How great is that? You being able to take your trash and I give you fresh eggs for it. And I did a video on it. It's great. I break down how much food it costs to make an egg. But if you could take your byproducts that you can't eat, that you're going to throw away anyway, and you can get a week's worth of eggs out of it, sounds like a pretty good deal to me, right? And there are lots of people that do this. I'm not the only one. Trust me. I would love to take credit for it, right? I would love to come here and take credit for all this stuff. This is all stuff that I've learned from other people. All I'm trying to do is share the information that great men and women before me have presented to me, and just trying my best to get it on a bigger platform. But there's so many options for people out there. And, I think it's something, and I encourage people to at least entertain the idea that this is a possibility, because I know I'm not the only ones.
Yeah, I watched that video. I thought, man, that is, because that's something that I honestly never really did think of. Now, where I live, like I say, our town's about 9,000 people, but you can't go any direction out of town without running into farm fields. And so there's, farmers of all types, whether it's, pork producers, beef producers, regular agricultural farmers. I mean, that's all around. And that's one of the reasons why I'm content. I'm very content with being here. Because like I was saying earlier, we have all the ingredients here that we need to have a sustainable community. And I think that's extremely important. And like you say, I don't think I don't think we're going to reach a point in this country to where, as long as people aren't in the big cities, I think there's a fairly good chance that people are going to make it through and they're going to be just fine. One of the things, like you were saying, the societal change, I think we've seen a lot of that actually happen, and that's in the form of income. For instance, when the COVID thing all came around, a lot of people were put out of work, and so it got to the point that people were finding their own way. They were picking up side hustles or whatever. It got to the point that the IRS, and I'm sure you know about this, are actually going to start watching people's like PayPal and Venmo accounts and stuff like that, so that if you get anything over $600 in a year's time income on those, we'll call it, it's still a form, in my opinion, it's still kind of a form of digital currency. They're going to start watching that, and if you make over $600 income on your account, well, then they are going to send you a 1099, so you file taxes. And I think the reason why they really pushed for this is because of so many people that were put out of work, starting those side hustles just so you can get by. And I think that's why we're actually seeing the labor shortage that we are right now. It isn't because the money's gone. People aren't getting the huge unemployment checks anymore. We haven't gotten any more stimuluses, so people are surviving somehow, and I think that's part of that societal change that you talk about. People are learning how to make income on their own, and I think that's going to continue to grow.
I agree, and so much, so much of it is, as a society, Western norms, right? This is something that's very unique to the U.S., very unique to first world nations, especially Britain, the EU as well. We see you open your pay, your labor is rewarded with money. That money's put into a digital account, and that account has a money value, and that money value you look at is how I make it through the month, right? So food, entertainment, clothing, gasoline, everything is put through that lens of how much money you have. And in other places, especially in the minority communities, we see this we see this hugely played out. That's not the case, right? Yeah, that money may go towards things for the man, right? The government, your rent, tax, insurance, stuff like that. But that's not how it's seen. There are ways to generate income, and there are ways to generate things for yourself. Like I said, if you're able to take care of your meat costs for a couple months, that's huge. And in a lot of other societies, that's how we see this. That's how we see this played out. And, I know the government is starting to close down on this. A lot of people don't realize this. I haven't done a video on this yet because I'm trying to figure out how to, for those of us in agriculture, we already know what's going on. I'm trying to figure out a way to put this out for the general public, because I think most people just aren't in the situation that they just don't care, and that's fine. But for example, for livestock, my livestock now are more registered than my firearms because of this new tracing requirement made from COVID. A lot of people don't realize this, but for example, sheep in the United States of America, that they require two different numbers. So there's two different lines of accounting for sheep, even if you have a huge or small operation. Now, you don't have to. This difference between subsistence and business, but it's one of those things where if a federal agent were to walk up and see that you have sheep, they can come up to you and say, hey, I want to see this tag and I want to see this flock number. If you can't produce that, guess what you just did? You committed a felony. Here's a $5,000 ticket, and here's imprisonment. So this administration is putting a lot of different things that are gonna, and the likelihood of that happening is bar to none, right? Virtually never gonna happen. But the fact they have the power to do it is the real selling point. Does that make sense? So it's realizing that, these things are happening. But with that being said, there are solutions, and there are things that we can do, and there are things that we should do. But ultimately, I'd have to agree with you wholeheartedly. There is a bunch of nuance to this. And again, it's like what you were saying way earlier with getting a sewing machine. I was kind of in a similar situation. I don't know how to sew. I have a horrible skill set in that way. I am not good at artistic things whatsoever. I'm kind of a caveman. But one thing the military did teach me is I'm pretty good with paracord. So I was able to make some collars and make some leashes out of paracord because, I'm a big dummy. But yeah, I had to adapt and overcome, And again, if I have a sewing lady now, but she's so overwhelmed with projects. If I had another sewing person, man, you could right now in my area, you could make your own price. So what do you want? Tell me. If you know how to sew, you know how to make clothes, just basic stuff. If you know how to put something together for, and I've supplied the materials, but you're willing to stuff this bed and sew it together, make it strong, what do you want? What's your price tag? Because I don't want to go to Costco and spend $300. I don't want to go to Petco and spend $300. Like, what's your price? Just tell me, And that's where we're at. And I think once people realize that this is the ability that they have, and this is the world we live in, is like you said, right to repair. That's going to be on all things, whether that's electronics or not. I think that's huge because again, I'm totally in the predicament. And again, this comes with the cultural thing. For those of you guys that know, I didn't grow up in the United States of America at the beginning of my life. I didn't. So a lot of these Western norms, a lot of these, what's that phrase? Keeping up with the Smiths or the Joneses, whatever. That's something that's just never been applicable in my life. And so, again, I don't care what other people think. I don't need the validation of other people. But if I have a need and you can repair it or you can meet that need, let's have a conversation. Please, let's have a conversation. I'm a reasonable person. What can we do to help each other out? And I think that type of relationship is the most important thing in preparedness right now that we need to be getting at. I have a need. You have a need. Let's stop with all this bullshit of OPSEC, bro. I can't talk to people about needing a dog bed. No, guys, I need a fucking dog bed. So if somebody knows how to do that near my area, what can we do? Right. Let's work with each other.
Well, and you made a comment earlier before we started the show, and, I was searching in my mind, well, what made me that way? And that comment was, how I kind of see things as they are. And, what you just said kind of triggered the answer to that. I was raised in a pretty poor family, and so you were talking about keeping up with the Joneses. My family never did that because they couldn't afford to do that. We didn't have brand name shoes. We didn't have brand name clothes or anything like that. We always got what we got, and that we had to deal with it, And if my dad wanted something more, like my dad loved to go to auctions, and if he wanted money to spend at the auctions, he couldn't take the money that he earned at his job because they had to fight to pay the bills. So what he did is on the weekends, he repaired bicycles, he repaired lawnmowers and stuff like that. And that's kind of where I first learned how to work on stuff. And so I guess maybe that's probably why I have a different outlook on life and how things work, so to speak. I don't mean mechanically, so to say, but how things work with people as far as, well, like you're saying, getting back to a point of more or less bartering, whether it be bartering skills, whether it be bartering items, because I guess I grew up with that, actually.
No, and I think that's, like I said to you earlier before we started, it's a blessing. Not having grown up in this country, I didn't get to the U.S. till right before 9/11, and that was such a blessing because even now I'm realizing there are certain societal norms that I'm just not aware of, and I showed my ass. So I can't remember which one it's a guy that's affiliated with Prepper Tribe. I can't remember his. I'm sorry if you watch this. I can't remember his handle for the life of me, but I had this video that I was going to put out, and I was just on fire for it, brother. Like, I was on fire. I'm like, I'm going to put this out. This is incredible. And then I realized, wait, after I watched his video, I realized I can't put this video out because it makes no sense. I didn't realize. I'm telling you this right now. I'm in my, I had no idea until 6 months ago that most Americans don't eat leftovers. I know. I'm showing my ass right now. I had no idea. I am so, I guess, in societal, growing up under a rock or something. I had no idea. I had zero idea that people didn't eat leftovers. Like, that was seen as less than, right? People looked at you less than. growing up in a Hispanic home, like that's something that we did. That's part of our culture, right? Your dinner is your lunch the next day. I mean, that's just very culturally unique. Same thing with my wife. I mean, she grew up very poor too, and so that's something that we do. I mean, my wife's the lady that she'll drink a soda, and if she doesn't finish the soda, she'll put it in the refrigerator and she'll finish it. You know what I mean? Like nothing goes to waste here. I didn't realize that was seen as less than in this society. I swear, literally, I can't make this up. I did not realize this until like 6 months ago that that's considered less than, going to Ross, right? Like the fact that like, if I were to buy a name brand, I didn't realize that if you bought that same name brand at like a Ross outlet or an outlet that sells stuff later, that you're seen as less than. I didn't realize that.
Well, this might sound.
I always thought it was name brand. I thought the name is what mattered, but people actually care where you bought that name brand at.
Well, like it's funny that you said what you said, because I'll be 50 in May, and do you know I didn't realize that most people don't eat their leftovers?
I didn't either. And so I just it just shows you the cultural shift. And again, if that's where we're at in society, and that's the thing I realized, that when I'm talking to most people that are in the preparedness community, the reason why I have a hard time reaching them is because we really come from two different worlds, right? We're looking at preparedness from two different aspects, and the provocation of that is it's a conversation for another time, but yeah, it's something that I can be honest with my biases. I had no idea. And so I have to realize that most people I talk to, there is going to be a learning curve, because I'm already at this level of efficiency, preparedness. I don't care what you think. This is what's happening now. And I realize most people are not there. I realize that most people, they have to keep up appearances, right? That's super important. I did a video. It's funny because we're talking. Actually, it's right here, brother. So family cloth, right? I did a video on this, and so I talk about why I would never stock toilet paper, right? I buy toilet paper. I think it's convenient. I think if we can have it, we can have it. I'm not going to stockpile and hoard it, though. If I get priced out of it, great. If it's not there, great. I have an alternative, and I'm ready to go. Right. My wife, she grew up poor. Their family had family cloth growing up, Me and her on the same page. We're ready to go. Me and her, we're going to take on the world. Like, let's do this. But I realize most people, just hearing that gives them so much cringe that everything I say after that turns off.
Right.
Because they have to keep up with appearances. They have to have the nice car. They have to have the pretend happy family. They have to have all this stuff. And preparedness is one of those secret hush things that we keep behind closed doors because they don't want people to think they're crazy. And that's how most people see preparedness. Right. I can't relate to that person. Me and you have nothing in common, because what I do works. What you're doing is just something to make you feel good. Right. We're on totally different levels, and I get that, and that's fine. That's where you have the city preppers, the magic preppers, the asymmetrical preppers, Prepper Now, Prepper Nation. That's where those preppers come in, right?
But that's not practical.
It's not practical, but you know what? I gotta hide my face. You know why I gotta hide my face? Because people are going to judge me, and I can't stand that, so I have to hide my face, or I have to play along with social norms because we live in normal society. Don't you, Watchman? Don't you understand that? Right. We live in Western society. You have to play by the rules.
Yep.
Stop talking about truth about generators. You stop that. I have an affiliate link I have to manage. Okay.
Yeah. They hate it. They hate it. Oh man, they hate it. And that's okay, because I'm the kind of person that, I'm a very practical person, and I don't give a damn whether they like me or not. I don't care if I've got 200,000 subscribers or 20 subscribers. I really don't care. And I don't think that they can grasp that. I don't even think that they can understand that. But when I lie down at night, I want to lie my head down and be at peace with myself and my God, and know that I was practical. I was, the content that I provided, the information I provided, was something that someday is going to help somebody. and those add to cart links, they're only good for so long.
No, I agree. And like I said in one of my latest videos, man, it was the, Patriot Nurse video I did. I'll be 100% honest with you with my biases. I'm upfront. I am not here to make money off people. I am here because strong men and women have taught me invaluable skills. And I think every boy, every girl needs to at least know these basic skills. They do. They're super important. And if I can just give a person, man, woman, child, I don't care, if I can give them the skill set necessary because it's something that I was learned, I want to share that with the world. It's about mentorship. If you have to pay me for my advice, that's not a mentorship, that's a service.
Right.
And everybody out there on YouTube is trying to provide a service. And I get it, and that's fine. That is not what I'm trying to provide you. I'm not trying to provide you with a service. There are things that have been given to me for free that I could never charge somebody for, because it's what God wants me to do. It's what society needs me to do. It's what my fellow man absolutely needs right now in this time. And I can't sell that to you. I can't.
Right.
And so I'll be honest with my biases, though. My biases are preparedness, sustainability, and efficiency. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't fall into that sequence of events, to me, it's worthless.
Right.
It does no good for me. And so my channel's not for everybody, and I get that. And that's okay, because I'm not here to chase clout. I'm here to be honest. I'm here to give you the information as it is. And most importantly, I'm here to provide you actual solutions. But if my solutions, which are valid, clean, and hygienic, are not good for you, that's fine.
Right.
Spend the money, stockpile, hoard, get all the toilet paper, and guess what? You're going to blink one day, and you're going to be out, and guess what you're going to do? You're going to come crawling back to the solutions that actually work, no matter what. So at the end of the day, you're going to find me regardless. You're just going to be less happy about it.
Right. Well, and that's why, I really promote, there's certain novels by certain authors that I really promote. And the reason why I promote them isn't because there's always a fantasy level in these novels, and that's not what I want people to get out of them. But there's also a level of reality in them, and you talk about the family cloths. I literally, one of the series that I promote, the Going Home series by Angry American, they literally have a part in that book to where they're sewing together feminine. They're cloth feminine pads that have to be washed out, and to me, stuff like that. The reason I want people to read stuff like that is so they get in the mindset. They understand, it won't be such a shock to them when they do use that last roll of toilet paper, or they do use that last feminine pad, or, they already know, like what you're already prepared to do. You know what I'm saying? Because stuff like that is going to really break people. I really do think stuff like that's going to break people.
And let's talk about the technology aspect of it that I didn't mention. In that video, the quickest 30-second synopsis I can, I have a bidet, right? The bidet is going to take care of most of the stuff, but I need something to take care of the final. The bidet is going to get me 80%. I need something to take me the next 20%. That's technology, because we're never going back. Unless something horribly goes wrong, we're not going back to the 1300s. We're going back to the 1900s, right? We're going back to the 1800s. And so it's one of those things where, if I get priced out, which is most likely to happen, right? The most likely scenario for toilet paper is I get priced out of it, If I get priced out of it, I'm not going to sweat, right? Why have stress? There's no reason for the stress. Okay, I got priced out of something. This is what we're going to do, right? Oh, there's a legit shortage. I can't do it. Fine. I go to something temporarily. And guess what? When that product comes back on the shelf, which it will, I'll go back to buying it if I'm not priced out, right? It's a convenience thing. But my ability to not let societal norms dictate my happiness is true freedom.
That's right.
That's true freedom. That's true sustainability. If you don't want to come to my house and use the family cloth, that's fine. You can wait till you get home. You can use your stockpiled shit, and at the very end of the day, you're going to be using a Sears catalog when I'm going to be using something really nice and clean, because guess what? I have all the Clorox I'll ever need. I have all the detergents I'll ever need. And just for those of you guys wondering, if you want to make free Clorox, all it is putting an electric charge through salt water. And a guy like Watchman, as long as he has salt water, he's going to have all the bleach he needs, because I guarantee you his electricity stuff's on point. You know what I mean? And again, look at that. That's just another option you have. I mean, literally, you have the abilities you have. I mean, you say, you know, and I get it, and I'm not downplaying anything, but you look at a guy like you that has the restrictions that you have, and just with basic knowledge, you're able to provide your community with so much stuff. Right. Let's say a guy like me on the homestead needed a gallon of bleach. You know how much that gallon of bleach is gonna be worth? Just because you have 2 cups of salt and a gallon of water. What do you want, Mr. Watchman? You tell me.
Right.
You tell me, what do you want? You know what I mean?
Yep.
The fact that you can put a charge through that and make bleach. Come on, people. You know, like, what do you want, sir? I'll give you whatever you want. You want a whole sheep to yourself? Here's a 200-pound animal. Take it. I need this gallon of bleach.
Yep.
Again, people, there's so many solutions. You just have to be willing to. I'm not saying open the floodgates, but, you know, peek behind the corner. If that's one thing I can get your audience just to maybe think about, if they haven't, just peek around the corner, see what's there.
Yep. Knowledge, it's everything. You know, when I just did a video on energy production because we started a second channel, and I just did an energy production video over there. And, you know, I mentioned very first and foremost that the most important thing is knowledge. And, you know, one of the things that I don't see any of the other prepper channels talking about this when they're selling their generators and all this stuff. Buy a multi-tester and learn how to use it. Learn basic electronics. Learn how to use it. And then that way you can fix the items, you know, within reason. You can fix your issues, you know. Because there's a lot of people today that they don't even really understand if they blow a breaker. Believe it or not, there's a lot of people that don't really even understand going to the breaker box and flipping that breaker back on, you know? And
right.
That's scary, you know?
I couldn't agree with you more. And there is a knowledge gap. And that's it. You've heard me say this, and I'm not going to beat the horse with this, but you're right. We're in 2022. The amount of, we have never had so much access to information and been so stupid at the same fucking time.
Oh, never it's in incredible.
Never in history have we had access to this amount of information and been so stupid and so lazy. And that's just what it comes down to. And I'll be the first person to admit it. There are days where I want to be lazy. I don't want to go out there, and I have to realize, like, you know, I watched a Jordan Peterson video the other day. You know, I have to realize that my ancestors, the people that got me here, they died in their 30s tops. You know what I mean? Like, these people had to work every single day was a fight for survival. And here I am having a pity party because my coffee I have to go heat up water for my coffee so I can go outside and I can feed my animals. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, today. And, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, David Goggins has this thing, and it again, I'm not telling you to do this, but he has this saying, you know, there's going to be some cursing, hashtag safe space here. He's like, whenever I feel like I don't want to do something, I take a recording of all the reasons why I don't want to do it. And the reason why I do it is because I want to replay it so I can hear how much of a bitch I'm being, you know, like, that's what it is. Like, literally there are days, and I'll be honest with you, it's like, you know, it's 20, 30 degrees outside. I don't really want to go outside right now because it's cold and it's dark. And then I have to realize, like, this is the lifestyle you want. Like, you're doing this because this is what's right. This is what's needed, you know, and all the little, and you know, I have to look back, like, your ancestors literally did not even have a house. They didn't have coffee. Like, you literally, it's like unapologetic. You literally are heating up coffee. You're going out there with a fucking thermos, my dude. Stop fucking bitching. Go out there, feed your animals, get it done. You're going out there with a fucking thermos. Yep. You know what I mean? Like, go fuck yourself. Like, and I have to realize that that's me being lazy. That's laziness creeping in. That's the demon on my shoulder here telling me, it's so much easier if you just go to the grocery store and you never have to do this again. It's okay. People will understand. You don't, this, that, and the other. And no, it's not okay. And I'm not telling people to grow their own food. What I'm saying is God created you. He created you in his image, and he beautifully made you. And you have something that is worthwhile to society. Even if it's just you listening, being there to listen. You know what I mean? Like, look at counselors. Like, these people, some people just need somebody to listen to them, because validation is important to a lot of people. That's all they need. They just need somebody to let them know that things are going to be okay, even if it's not. Everybody can do something. That's everybody. Right. And I can't stress that enough. Do not fall victim to this bullshit preparedness mentality that it's only one way.
Right.
Everybody has something to offer, and somebody is willing to pay you handsomely for that ability.
Even if it's just watching their kids while they are off doing whatever it is they need to do,
I did a video on that. I think women are the most, I think when it comes to preparedness, women are the best. I do, because you give me a kid, I'll do my best not to kill it. And I'm being sarcastic here, but I'll do my best. But I don't have the emotional intelligence my wife has. My wife can literally go up to any child and know immediately what they're thinking, what they need. And I'm like, dear, he can't talk to you. How do you know what he wants? And she's like, stop, I'm a woman. I'm like, yes, ma'am. Like, go ahead, But, as somebody who is a producer, this is a real life example. We have a lady that lives right down, I don't even want to say down the street. She lives on the homestead adjacent to us. She has canning abilities that I cannot describe. I cannot explain. This lady does not need a canner. When I say boil method, she can boil method meat. Okay. You give her a cauldron and some firewood, and she will can whatever you need. Like, she's that good. Well, her husband's a mechanic. They're always busy. Straight up, when I have to go dispatch an animal, if I'm dispatching a big animal or elk, deer, whatever, I'll dispatch it. I'll gut it out. I'll skin it, and I'll take the cuts that I want, and I say, hey, can you make the rest of this into? I need this can. Can you can the rest of this into either stew meat or grind? They have a grinder now, so beef, like burger, like. I have the animal here. The cuts are my prime cuts are taken out. Take everything else and make it into stew meat. Can you do that? Yeah. And she will sit out there all day and she'll make it into stew meat. When I come back, I say, ma'am, what do you want? What do you want? Because guess what? I didn't have to do anything. I did the easy part. I shot it. I harvested it. I took my prime cuts, and I gave her my materials, right? I gave her the canning jar. She did everything else. All right. Yeah, you can absolutely keep 30 pounds of meat. Absolutely. Thank you so much, because you saved me so much time.
Yep.
Anybody that's skinning an animal, harvesting it, shooting it, skinning it, gutting it, that's the easy part. Taking your backstrap, taking your prime cuts, that's not very hard. But the nuance of taking everything else and making everything else into what you need, man, that's not the easiest thing in the world.
No, it's not.
She can feed her family, and all I have to do is take jars back to my place.
Yep. And everybody's taken care of.
Everybody's taken care of.
Man, I so can't wait to get back to that.
She's good at.
Yep. I so can't wait to get back at that. One of the things that really frustrates me in society is the people that really, they don't have any realistic skills, And the sad thing about it is those are the people that we see on the top. Those are the people that are getting by and, making the tons of money and all of that stuff. And it's frustrating to me. It is truly frustrating to me, because this world is at least still upside down, Yeah. In my opinion, the people that society looks on as the least important are the most important. And I can't wait. I actually can't. And I do think that in my lifetime, if the Father doesn't need me anytime sooner, I think I'm going to see that change. I think I'm going to see that turn back around to where, the important people, the truly important people, are going to be important again.
I agree. And again, it goes down to, for me, it goes down to know what I'm good at, right? I know Angry Prepper might see it differently. He said he spouts things about me that aren't true, but I'm a very humble person, and I'll be the first one to tell you, Mr. Watchman, I do not have your skill set. I don't. It would take me a lifetime just to learn what you knew 10 years ago, right? And so it's one of those things where I understand that, and I realize that, and I appreciate that. That is why I surround myself with professionals, right? When we're talking about mags and stuff, what did I say before? A professional is somebody that does something that somebody's unwilling or unable to do for themselves.
Right.
I'm able to do a lot of things, but there are some things that I do not have the skill set. I am unable to do it because I do not have that expertise. I am good at what I do. I can grow food like a motherfucker. I can. I have the ability to protect myself like a motherfucker. I do. There are many things that I have. Medical skill sets. I have a lot of good skill sets, but there are certain things that I'm not fucking good at. I can't sing. I'm not artistic. I don't have a technology background. I fucking don't. I'm trying to learn things. Right now I'm trying to learn how to build. I'm surrounding myself with a lot of builders. I'm surrounding myself with people of the trades, and I'm trying desperately to learn that skill set because I think it's very important. And I agree. Overall, you're gonna have these people that, again, super, super, super important. And I can't put a price tag on that because, again, you're talking about just we have a lady at our church, right? Believe it or not, this is gonna surprise people, but somebody actually made me a deacon at a church. Don't ask me why they fucking did that, but whatever. It is what it is. So believe it or not, somebody thought that was a good idea. And what I like about our church is, we are very needs orientated. We meet people's needs, right? If there's a single mom who's dry or broke in our church, right? The deacon body, the elders will send a deacon body there, right? Deacons will show up. We will fix that need. I don't know how to fix it, but you know what? I can fucking carry some shit, And there are a lot of times where the only use that I have is the fact that I have a fucking strong back and I can move some shit out of the way. And I take that on with humility and with honor, because if that's what the Lord needs me to do, that's what God needs me to do, that's what I'll do. There's no job beneath me, right? And so when you look at this from a service aspect, it's one of those things where, what a woman like that is great for. She's in the church. She's a godly woman. Yes, she's in a predicament. But you know what? She has a lot of worth, because for me to trust you to come into my home and be around my family, that's important. Mm-hmm. That means a lot, because not everybody has that. That's not something that you're owed.
Right.
But you can be around my wife, you can be around my parents, my children. If I trust you with that, you know how much of a force multiplier that is? We all know kids are a lot, So if you have a woman who has no real skill sets, but she's a homemaker, you know how important that is going to be in a real life shit hits the fan moment.
Right.
If there is a time where shit hits the fan, that's one person I need to find immediately. Who is a woman that I trust to be around my family just to maintain the home? Clothes, food, take care of my kids. Just take care of those three things. If you can take care of those three things, I will protect you with my life. I will feed you until your heart's content, and I will make sure you always have your needs met. But I need you to take care of these things.
Right.
Simple as that. You don't have to leave the house. You don't have to touch a gun. You just take care of my kids, make sure my house is maintained, make sure that the food that I provide is cooked. If you can do that, I'm willing to risk my life for that.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't, right? And so everybody, and that's worth to me more than a guy with a fucking rifle. I don't need a hothead with a rifle. That's a dime a dozen. Right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I'm not trying to put gender rules here. I mean, again, you find the right person for the job, but everybody wants to make that seem like it's insignificant. And the people that want to make that seem insignificant are people that are not producers.
Right.
Those are stockpiles. Those are your people that stockpile. Those are your people that hoard.
Yep.
They cannot see people with utility because they don't see themselves with utility.
Right. Yep. I agree totally. There's even oddball things that I've set myself up to be able to do. because right now people wouldn't think twice about it. But like, for instance, I've been vaping through the show because I'm a vapor. I've been a nicotine addict since, a teenager.
God bless you.
And I quit smoking in 2013 and went strictly to vaping. But one of the things I made sure to do, because most people aren't, is I put back extra nicotine. I put back, so that's just one area. Like you were saying, finding others that can do things that I can't. Well, I obviously can't protect us on a level that is going to be the same as what, somebody that's not disabled, for instance. However, that person that's got all the weapons and the ammunition and built like a brick shit house, he might be a smoker, and I might be able to keep him with his nicotine to keep his habit under control or his addiction under control. And
Mr. Watchman, I love cigars. I promise you. I wish you lived closer, man. I take care of you, brother. We'll get you a trailer. We'll just have it parked here, okay?
Oh, I'm telling you, man. I think that's going to be the most important thing. I mean, I know we keep circling back to that, but being able to and when I say barter, I think a lot of people always think of material items.
Yes.
It's not
so
that.
Be from the truth.
Yep. I mean, the skilled trades are going to be bartered much more than what items are.
Absolutely, and I talk about this, and I'll make this real brief, and I do apologize because I know I've talked about this a lot on my channel. I talk about commodity junk. A lot of these preppers will tell you these are the 15 items you need to buy, right? Go to Dollar Tree. These are the most top bartered items. I hate to break it to you guys, dude, and I don't. And I'm going to be very unapologetic. You're going to get the unapologetic side of me. Nobody wants your fucking Bic lighters, right? Nobody wants your Bic lighters. Hey, prepper now, if you're listening to this, nobody wants your fucking condoms. Nobody wants your fucking ponchos. Nobody wants your commodity junk, your sunscreen, none of that stuff.
Right.
Nobody wants that shit, okay? I'm a producer. I produce things. I don't need your Bic lighters. I don't need your Bic lighters. I have everything I need to start fires, okay? I don't need your bullshit water purification tabs, okay? I don't need that stuff. I don't. Producers, they're not going to need that.
Nope.
Okay. Well, you know what I need? Again, that's like what I said. I need people with skilled labor. I need people I trust. Okay. I don't need a homeless person with a backpack full of commodity junk from Dollar Tree. I don't need that. In fact, if you show up at my place, the fact that you found my place will surprise me, first off, and I promise you'll probably not get a welcome warning from me or anybody around me.
Yep.
Okay?
I agree.
And it's just, I think we need to realize that, and it's crazy that real people really think this commodity Dollar Tree junk is going to be things, because think about it from a different perspective, right? Somebody that produces something, what are they going to want? That's how I look at it, right? I breed rabbits. Rabbits, I think, are in my personal opinion, so far they have proven to me to be the ultimate survival livestock animal. Okay, I have paid for a trailer with rabbits. I have paid for my furniture with rabbits. Literally, all my hobbies for my farm started, and I paid for everything because of rabbit sales.
That's awesome.
Ultimate livestock animal for me. Ultimate, right? As a producer, if you think that I'm going to trade a rabbit, a 5-pound, 8-pound rabbit for a Bic lighter, man, we're on two totally different fields that I can't articulate and bring that together. I just can't. There's no way in my mind I can make that work. I can't. You know what I can make work, though? Mr. Watchman, do you have some bleach? Or, hey, because I have tons of salt. Anybody that's on a homestead, we have tons of salt for our animals and stuff. Hey, my solar stuff's all fucked up. Can you make me a gallon of salt? Yes? Okay, great. Guess what? You're going to eat for a few weeks. No problem, doubt. Come on in, man. We'll put some steaks on the grill.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just the truth.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And like you were saying with the commodities, somebody that needs that Bic lighter, that's the only way that they know how, those people aren't going to last long.
No.
And so you're not going to have the return customers, so to speak, because if they can't do it without those items, they're just not going to last long. It's a fact.
I mean, just think about it this way. I have a few solar generators. I have a few inverters. Man, I'd be like, hey, Mr. Watchman, I'm putting you up in my RV. I'm going to go find fucking 30, 40 car batteries. I'm going to give them to you. We're going to light this motherfucker up.
Yep.
I mean, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, that's what we're doing, bud. So I'm going to give you all this stuff. You put this shit together, and we're about to light this motherfucker up. Like, that's the kind of people we need.
Yeah.
You know? And hey, this guy, this young kid, he has a rifle, and he's going to make sure nothing happens to you. Let's make this fucking shit happen. Like, that is what, you know, in an off-grid society, that's what I see, you know? Like, unfortunately, everybody thinks the shooters are going to be the glorified people, but no. If you're a shooter, hey, Mr. Watchman, everywhere he goes, he don't go by himself. Anything he needs, you make it happen, because this guy is about to give us power for the next fucking month. So watch him like a fucking hawk, right? Yep. You know, same thing. Hey, you're a shooter. You're the most tactical guy I have. Guess what you get? Home duty. You see this lady? She's a single mom. These are her kids. These are my family. You make sure nothing fucking happens to them. If anything happens to them, you're gonna have to talk to me, right? Like, that's what shooters are going to do. They want to glorify it like they're going to be out there, I don't know, gallivanting around, you know, dark day 30 or whatever, but that's not the reality.
Right.
You know what I mean? The reality are you have security for things that are assets.
Right.
They are not the asset.
Exactly.
They are the commodity. You are the asset. That single mom is the asset. That lady that's canning is the asset. Yep. And I don't think that people realize that.
No.
I don't think your magic preppers realize that. I think that he thinks in his mind, no, I have the guns. I owned a gun shop at one point. Like, I'm the ultimate authority. No, bud, if you're not going to can, you know, 120 pounds of meat, you're going to hold that rifle and you're going to watch her do it. And if anything happens to her, I'm coming after you.
Yep. Exactly. And that goes to another mindset that I think a lot of preppers have the wrong idea on. And that's, you know, either the lone prepper or the real small group preppers. You know, like, you take a group of 20 people, for instance, and I keep trying to impress this upon people. If you're only a group of, say, like 20 people, you don't stand a chance. You really don't stand it. You need a bigger community than that. And when I say that, I don't mean on a compound, you know what I mean? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, and that's why I'm content where I'm at. I'm in a town of like 9,000 people, okay? If something major would have happened, we're going to lose a lot of those people. There's no doubt. But it's also going to take a lot of people in order to stay alive. You're going to need enough people to be able to do the labor type jobs or the security type jobs or so. And exactly like you said, those people are the commodities.
Yes.
You know, the assets is the farmer, the old man that can't hardly get around anymore, right? Because he's worked his ass off his whole life and worn his body out. That's going to be the asset because he knows how to get stuff growing. He knows how to teach animal husbandry, for instance.
Right. And as somebody that I would consider myself, I really believe, and I think that warrior class is so important, right? And as somebody who has served as a first responder, as somebody who's done executive protection, as somebody who's been in the military, done combat search and rescue, my heart will always be with the warrior spirit. It always will. But I have to realize that the reason why a shepherd has livestock guardians, the reason why the shepherd has the sheepdog, is because the sheepdog is the tool to defend the commodity.
Right.
Everybody wants to talk sheepdog. You are there as an expendable resource for what's important, right?
Yep.
And that's the flock.
Yep.
Right? God has put me on the earth to protect the flock. It is an honorable, 100% honorable job. My heart, every part of me will always go to the warrior mentality. It will always go to the warrior. You know, weapons change, warriors stay the same. I 100% believe that, and my heart will always be for the warrior. I'm a warrior. It will always be that way. I fucking respect it till the day I fucking die. But what's the point of being a warrior if there's nothing worth protecting?
Right.
That's why we do it, right?
Yeah.
Our families, our communities, our society. We do it because there's something more important than us.
Right.
That's
right.
And every single person watching this, if you're not a warrior, you can be the commodity that's worth dying for.
Yep.
But there is some responsibility there. Do what God puts you on the earth to fucking do.
That's right.
Simple as that.
Yep.
As simple as that. I don't care if you're handicapped. I don't care if you can do X, Y, or Z. If you have a talent and skill set, it's worth protecting.
Yep.
It is.
Absolutely.
That's what I want people to realize. And again, my heart will always be with the warrior. It will always be there, 110%, no doubt. There very few people out there that have more of a heart for the warrior mentality and the warrior spirit and the warrior mission than me.
Right.
Very few people. But I understand why I am a warrior. And that is because there are things in this world worth protecting.
Yep.
And that's you guys.
That's right. That's
so
right.
let's stop playing games. Let's stop fucking with the shenanigans, and let's get serious.
Yep, I agree. I agree. Well, I'm gonna go ahead, I think, and wrap this up. Dude, we have to do this again. This was awesome. This was absolutely awesome. So anything you want to say to close up?
No, I appreciate your audience. I appreciate you guys bearing through. I really want to do this again, and most importantly, like we talked about, I think it's important to have as many, specialized people, preferably experts. Again, I do not claim to be an expert. I am good enough to feed myself and provide myself with the power I need, but outside of that, I'm not claiming to be an expert. But I'm huge into permaculture. I'm huge in growing food. So if you guys are out there and you guys are just curious about what it takes to grow your own food sustainably, free, without feed, think about poking your head over the corner and checking me out. Again, I come with my biases. I'm all about sustainability. I'm all about efficiency. I'm all about true preparedness, and I don't want your dollar. God put me on this earth for a reason, and that is to give you guys the knowledge I have. That's plain and simple. So understand my biases, understand who I am before the fact, but I love to see you guys out there. Come to my channel, ask a question. I love to do response videos, so let me know. And again, I appreciate you, Mr. Watchman, having me on, and I appreciate you allowing me to interact with your audience, and I wish everybody the best.
Well, and I appreciate you coming on, and his link, by the way, is in the description, so that'll make it easy. Just look in the description of the video, and his link's right there first thing. And you were talking, and an idea came into mind, and I want you to think about it a little bit. We're starting to see these prepper channels group up and get together, and they have their little panels and stuff like that. But they're the add to cart. I call them add to cart preppers or commercial preppers. Maybe think about you and I putting together some individuals that are well versed in their fields, and maybe having a panel of our own, teaching people the practical side of prepping, not the add to cart side of prepping, but the practical part.
I think that's great. I have a few people in mind. I will reach out. I think that's great. I know a great builder. I know somebody that's really big in energy. I know a few people that I think would be great, that we could put a panel, and I think it'd be great to answer people's questions, and not, like you said, not answering it in a monetary perspective, but unfortunately giving people just the cold, honest truth. I think it's so unheard of these days that I think it'd be a big benefit.
Right, and hell, I see how I could grow from that too. One of my weak points is, I tell people medical. That's one of my weak points. But you mentioned, builders. Believe it or not, that's a weak point of mine. You give me metal, and I can machine it to aircraft specifications. You give me wood, and I can't build a square damn box. So I think maybe we could be a benefit. I really do.
I think it's great. Well, I'll reach out to my people, and let's get a panel. I think that'd be amazing. I think, it'll probably destroy the preparedness community, but that's okay. It is what it is.
Fine with me.
That's fine with me too.
Alrighty, man. Well, thanks for coming on, and we will certainly have to do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. You have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye. Alrighty, and I'm going to forego the headlines. If anybody wants to see the headlines, and the main reason why is I got to use the restroom. So if anybody wants to see the headlines, just simply go to twitter.com / the Watchman News, and there you go. You'll have the headlines. So anyway, I hope you all have a good evening, as always. Hope to see you tomorrow night. God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit. And shalom.